I never thought I'd see the day the invincible Duke Carlix Talisto would bow before anyone, let alone beg for his life. He's a man who survived countless battlefields, yet here he is, brought to his knees by a man who has never held a sword. I can feel the trembling in my own hands as the Emperor looms over us, his presence suffocating. In the chaos and the fear, a sudden, cold realization washes over me. The Emperor smiles, a twisted expression, as he reminds me that the child I'm carrying is of Karlik's blood. He says he's changed his mind. He won't let us live, not even for the sake of an unborn heir. The sound of the blade being drawn is the last thing I wanted to hear. He looks at me with such indifference, telling me to just die, as if my life meant nothing more than a stain on his carpet. The world begins to fade, and my last scream is lost in the darkness. 10 years ago, my life felt like it was just beginning, even if it was a beginning I didn't want. I was being sent to the East District, a place known for nothing but its biting cold and isolation. This marriage wasn't a choice, it was a royal decree, a sentence I had to accept with a bowed head. The whispers followed me everywhere. They wondered if the delicate daughter of Riarte could even survive such a wasteland. The East was everything they said it was, desolate, harsh, and so far removed from the warmth of the capital. I looked out at my new home and wondered if I would ever belong here, or if I would simply wither away. On our wedding night, I waited, but the Duke was already gone, called away to fight monsters on the border. The staff didn't hide their disdain. They told me he had no time to waste on a wife he didn't want. It was supposed to be our first night together, a start to a new life, however forced. The rejection stung more than the cold wind outside. Does he truly hate me this much? I sat in that massive, empty room, still in my wedding finery, feeling like a ghost in my own house. The next morning, my mother-in-law didn't waste any time. She demanded my dowry immediately. She claimed it was for the estate, but the way she looked at me told me she just wanted to strip me of everything I had. I tried to speak up, to ask for a small portion to manage my own affairs, but my voice failed me. She looked at me with such sharp contempt, offended that I would even question her authority. I flinched and backed down. I was a duchess in name only, a guest who had overstayed her welcome from day one. The servants gossiped behind my back, mocking the abandoned duchess who couldn't even get her husband to look at her. As the months passed, the neglect took its toll. I stopped caring about my appearance, about the prestige of my title. The poverty of the East wasn't just financial, it was emotional. I was freezing from the inside out. 2 winters had passed by the time Karlax finally returned from the war. The castle was in an uproar. He had achieved the impossible, fulfilling the Emperor's brutal demands. I stood in the crowd, my heart racing. I didn't even know what my own husband looked like anymore. Then I saw him, Karlax Talisato. He looked like a god of war, covered in the dust and blood of victory. He didn't even glance toward me. His eyes were fixed forward, cold and unreachable. That night, I drank to steady my nerves. I knew what was expected of us now that he was back. The door slammed open, and for a moment, I couldn't even breathe. He sat on the edge of the bed, the silence between us heavier than any armor he had worn. I flinched when he moved. Every gesture felt like a threat, even if he wasn't touching me. He reached out, his touch clinical and devoid of any warmth. It wasn't a romantic reunion, it was a duty. I closed my eyes and endured it, feeling more alone in his arms than I ever did in that empty room. Our first night together was nothing like the stories. It was hollow, silent, and deeply painful. Afterward, he sat there, mumbling to himself that things couldn't be turned back. He sounded just as trapped as I felt. I lay there under the covers, listening to his retreating footsteps, realizing my life was never going to change. But then, the sickness started, a constant, heavy nausea that I couldn't ignore. When the doctor confirmed I was pregnant, a spark of hope finally flickered in my chest. A baby, something that was mine, something that might finally give me a reason to stay. I told myself I wasn't alone anymore. I would protect this child with everything I had left. I even dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, this would change things between Carlix and me. Surely he would feel something for his own flesh and blood. He had to. The lamp flickered low the night I told him. The room felt smaller, the shadows longer. I started to speak, my voice trembling with a hope I hadn't felt in years, but he cut me off. "I never wanted a child," he said. The words were a physical blow to my heart. I looked at him, searching for any sign of a joke, any trace of softness. There was nothing. He turned away, leaving me to process the crushing weight of his rejection alone. I don't know why I expected anything else. He had been clear from the start. I was a burden, and now so was our child. Then came my last winter. The castle was under siege, flames licking at the stone walls. The Emperor's men were everywhere, their shouts of "Huzzah!" echoing through the smoke. They were here for the traitors. They were here for us. The Emperor had framed Carlix for treason. After everything he had sacrificed, this was his reward. We were dragged out like common criminals, the dignity of our titles stripped away in an instant. The Emperor sat on his throne, watching our downfall with a bored, cruel amusement. He mocked us for daring to show our faces, as if we had any choice in the matter. His eyes glowed with a sickening light. He was enjoying every second of our suffering. I tried to scream that it was a mistake, that we had no reason to commit treason, but no one listened. Then Carlix spoke. He didn't defend himself. He only said that I knew nothing of his affairs. He fell to his knees, begging the man he once served to let me live. I stared at him in shock. Why was he doing this? Why was he protecting me now? They threw us into the dungeon, the iron bars slamming shut with a finality that chilled my bones. In the dark, I finally found the courage to ask him, why did he protect me after all this time? He didn't answer at first. He just sat there, staring at the stone floor, looking more broken than I'd ever seen him. I realized then that I might have misunderstood him for 10 whole years. Was his coldness just a shield? "It was for the sake of the child," he finally whispered. His voice was thick with a regret he couldn't hide. He wanted his heir to live. He wanted some part of his legacy to survive the Emperor's wrath. I lashed out, fueled by years of resentment. Only now did he care, after saying he never wanted a child? The guards returned before he could answer. It was time. The execution wasn't a threat anymore. It was a reality. They dragged us toward the courtyard, the rough hands of the soldiers bruising my skin. I couldn't die like this, not while carrying a life that had done nothing wrong. I gripped my stomach, a silent promise to my baby that I would try one last time. I had promised to protect them. I had promised to be better than the world we lived in. I fell to my knees before the Emperor, begging for the life of my child, even if he took mine. But there was no mercy in his eyes, only the cold satisfaction of a predator who had finally caught his prey. He raised his sword, a sneer on his face as he told me to just die. The blade descended, a sharp, searing pain, and then a sudden, jarring gasp for air. In those final moments, I regretted everything. I regretted the silence, the fear, and the wasted years. I regretted that I had done nothing to change my fate until it was far too late to matter. As the light faded, I made one last wish. If I was given another chance, Just one more. My eyes snap open. I'm gasping, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I see a deer head on the wall. The air is warm, smelling of expensive perfume and fresh flowers. I'm in front of a mirror. Everything is bright, opulent, and terrifyingly familiar. I reach up, my fingers brushing against the fine lace of a wedding veil. I'm wearing a white dress. It's clean, expensive, and completely untouched by blood. I rush to the mirror, my breath catching in my throat as I see my own reflection. My face is young again. The lines of grief and the scars of the East are gone. It's impossible, but the mirror doesn't lie. I've gone 10 years back in time, to the day of my wedding. I sit there, the weight of the lace veil heavy on my head, my heart drumming against my ribs like a trapped bird. Is this real? Have I truly returned to the night it all began? I catch my reflection in the mirror, my eyes wide with a fear that belongs to a different lifetime. I can still feel the cold of the tower, the phantom pain of my end. A sharp knock at the door jolts me back to the present. Every instinct I have screams at me to hide, but I can't stay hidden forever. The door clatters open, and a voice I recognize far too well cuts through the silence. It's a voice that haunted my previous life. Grace, the head maid. In my past life, she was the primary architect of my misery, the loyal dog of my mother-in-law. She enters with the same cold, dismissive air she always had, treating me like a nuisance rather than the lady of the house. Seeing her face brings back every bitter memory. She was the one who made sure I was isolated, hungry, and broken. She speaks with a forced politeness that barely masks her contempt, delivering orders from the Duchess Belladonna as if I'm a servant. I can't believe I'm meeting her again. This woman tormented me for 10 years, and now I'm back at the very beginning of that nightmare. I remember the suffering. I remember the way they looked down on me, mocking my every attempt to find a place in this family. My heart thumps louder. The trauma isn't just a memory, it's a living thing inside me, clawing to get out. I can still see the faces of those who watched me die, the ones who told me to just give up and disappear. The flash of past trauma is blinding, but beneath the fear, a new spark begins to flicker. I've regretted things enough. I spent a whole lifetime being scared, and where did it lead me? To a cold death in a lonely tower. I won't be that girl anymore. This is a rare chance, a second life, and I won't waste it trembling in front of a maid. I straighten my back, my gaze hardening. When I ask her why the Duke isn't coming tonight, I make sure my voice doesn't shake. Grace flinches, startled by the sudden change in my demeanor. She wasn't expecting me to speak up, let alone with such authority. She tells me he's gone to defeat monsters at the border. It's the same excuse I heard the first time, a minor wave he used to avoid me. It's even more ridiculous the second time around. He's running away from his own wedding night, leaving me to the wolves. I know now that his absence is what allowed the Duchess to seize control of my life. If I let him leave tonight, I'm finished. I have to stop him. I have to change the course of this night before the cycle of abuse begins all over again. The realization hits me with a clarity I never had before. Karlak spent the next 10 years outside the towers, leaving me defenseless. Because of his absence, I never received the recognition I needed to survive. I was just a ghost in his castle. I slide my chair back and stand. I tell Grace that I need to meet the Duke personally. She looks at me as if I've lost my mind. When she tries to interrupt with more excuses about his preparations, I cut her off. I am the lady of this house now. I tell her it's my duty to encourage the knights before they leave on such a dangerous journey. It's a move she can't openly refuse. She swallows hard, her eyes darting around the room. She can't understand how the trembling girl from moments ago has vanished. Reluctantly, she bows her head. She realizes that, for today at least, she has no choice but to lead me to him. I manage a small, cold smile. The game has changed, and Grace is the first one to realize it. The click-clack of my heels on the marble floor sounds like a countdown. Every step is a move toward a future I intend to rewrite. I used to be so sick of this place, of these walls that felt like a prison. But looking at them now, I see opportunity. I remember when this castle went up in flames. It was a tragedy then, but now it's a reminder that nothing is permanent. I keep my eyes forward, refusing to let the familiar surroundings dampen my resolve. I am not the same person who walked these halls before. Grace suddenly halts at the heavy wooden doors leading to the courtyard. The air outside is cold, matching the tension between us. She gestures toward the gate where the knights are gathered. The sound of horses and clanking armor fills the night air. She mutters under her breath about how tactless I am. She thinks I'm making a fool of myself by chasing a man who wants to leave. The door creaks open, and I step out into the moonlight. My heart is pounding, but my hands are steady. I can't believe I'm seeing him again. Carlex. The man who was my husband, my stranger, and eventually my judge. Even if he doesn't like me, I have nothing to be afraid of. I've already faced death. His coldness is nothing in comparison. He's speaking to his men, his voice low and commanding. He hasn't noticed me yet, his focus entirely on his departure. I stand there for a moment, just watching him. The moonlight catches the silver of his uniform, making him look like a hero from a story. He glances over, his blue eyes sharp and unforgiving. The moment our eyes meet, the world seems to go silent. Is he really the same man? He looks so different in this light, before the years of war and bitterness took their toll. He's Carlex Tolstoy, my husband, and right now he looks like a man who is desperately trying to be anywhere but here. He looks way too young. I met him for the first time 2 years after our marriage in my last life, but seeing him now, he's only 24. I have to remind myself that his face is a mask. He might be young, but he's still the man who abandoned me to a life of misery. I close my eyes for a second, pushing back the wave of emotions. I can't let him see how much this is affecting me. Get it together, Amber. Nothing has changed from the past yet. He is still the same cold, distant man he always was. I walk toward him, my dress rustling against the stone. The knights watch in silence as their new Duchess approaches. I stop just a few feet away and offer a shallow bow. I tell him it's nice to meet him, my voice smooth and practiced. I introduce myself as Amber Telesto, his wife. I tell him I heard he was leaving and hurried over to send him off properly. He looks genuinely confused. The idea of me showing up to see him off clearly wasn't in his plans for the evening. Send me off? He repeats, his brow furrowing. He's searching my face for a motive, unable to believe I'm being sincere. He tells me there's no need for that, his voice as cold as the night air. He's already dismissing me, trying to end the conversation. But I don't move. I tell him it seems he was thinking of leaving the castle without even seeing his new wife. He stammers for a moment, caught off guard by my bluntness. It's the first time I've ever seen him lose his composure. The knights behind him are whispering now. They've never seen anyone talk to the Duke this way, let alone a woman they thought was a pushover. He looks flustered over such a small thing. Is it possible he's just as uncomfortable as I am? I tell myself not to be tricked. This is the man who let me rot. I have to stay focused on my goal. He remains silent, his gaze fixed on me. The air is thick with unspoken words and a decade of shared history he knows nothing about. Finally, he tells me to go ahead and say what I have to say. He's impatient, but at least he's listening. I look at him, the man who holds my future in his hands. I don't need his love, but I do need his presence. I take a deep breath and say the words that will change everything. Duke, don't go. His eyes reflect a flicker of something I never saw in my first life, genuine uncertainty. I can't let him walk away just yet, not when my entire future depends on what happens in these next few minutes. We move to a private room, the heavy silence between us a familiar ghost of our past mistakes. I sit across from the man who was once my greatest source of loneliness, determined to be more than just a shadow in his halls. My voice remains steady, even if my heart is racing. I need him to stay. I need him by my side to survive what's coming. I tell him there's no need for him to rush off to the monster wave in the East District. It's a calculated move, one he clearly doesn't expect. He flinches, caught off guard that I even know about the situation at the border. The cold Duke is finally showing a crack in his armor. I explain my research, masking the truth that my knowledge comes from the scars of a life I've already lived and lost. In my past life, being left alone on our first night was a wound that never truly healed. I won't let history repeat itself, so I make my stand. I point out that his personal presence isn't required. He has a squad of knights for a reason, and his place is here. He mumbles to himself, looking almost vulnerable. It's a side of Carlix I never knew existed in all our years together. I hold my breath, waiting for the cold dismissal I've grown so accustomed to over the years. I have to be blunt with him. I know he doesn't like me, and I know this marriage was nothing more than an obligation. We had no ceremony, and he didn't even come to our bedroom. We are strangers bound by a contract. But I deserve more than just a cold title. I deserve common courtesy. If I'm to adapt to life in this castle, I need him to stay and help me establish my place here. He hesitates, the tension in the room growing thick enough to choke on. Every second feels like an eternity. I stare him down, refusing to be the first one to blink or look away this time. I know how authoritarian the relationship between husband and wife is in the East. I've experienced the isolation firsthand. If I don't change the dynamic now, I'll never be able to change a thing in this house. My hands are trembling beneath the table, but I squeeze them tight. I need to persuade him, no matter what it takes. To my utter shock, he relents. He'll send the knights instead of going himself. I can barely contain the spark of hope in my chest. I can't believe it was actually that easy to reach him. He starts to leave, thinking our business is concluded, but I'm not finished yet. The real work starts now. There is one more crucial thing I need from him. I ask him to use formalities with me, to address me as an equal, not someone beneath him. In this conservative district, the way a husband speaks to his wife sets the tone for how the entire household views her. In my past life, his casual disregard was a signal for everyone else to treat me like a lesser being. If he speaks to me with honor, no one else in this castle will dare to look down on me again. He flinches again, the request clearly hitting a nerve he wasn't prepared for. I prepare myself for a refusal. Perhaps I push too far, too fast for a man like him. I try to hide my disappointment. I suppose this was one request he couldn't easily grant. Things here are so different from the West, and I'm realizing just how uphill this battle is going to be. He pauses, his face shadowed, as he carefully considers my words. Then he mumbles it, the words I've waited a lifetime to hear him say. He agrees to it. He's actually going to do it. My heart nearly stops in my chest. I'm stunned. He's going to grant me the respect I never had in our first marriage. Outside, the servants are already whispering, wondering what could possibly be keeping us inside for so long. One maid in particular is eager to report my supposed failure to Belladonna, the woman who truly controls this castle. The doors swing open, and the atmosphere in the courtyard changes instantly as we step out together. Carlax commands the attention of every knight and servant present. His voice rings out, announcing to the entire troop that he will not be going on the trip this time. A shocked murmur ripples through the crowd. This is completely unheard of for the Duke. He delegates the mission to his commander, choosing to stay behind for his wife. Then he turns to me, right in front of everyone. He tells me to go and get some rest, addressing me with the formal respect of a true Duchess. "I'll see you in the morning, my lady." I can see the shock and confusion on the faces of the staff. The power dynamic is shifting right before their eyes. I retreat to my room, the sound of the heavy doors closing behind me echoing the weight of this small victory. I collapse against the door, finally letting the adrenaline and the fear fade away. He really did it. He used formalities. He stayed for me. My mind is spinning with questions. He's definitely Carlex, Talisto, but he's behaving like a man I never knew. How can he be so different this time? I shake my head. I can't let myself get distracted by his kindness. Not yet. I have to focus on securing my spot in this castle, which is still dominated by people loyal to Belladonna. The first light of dawn begins to creep through the windows, marking the start of a new day and a new life. I know the maids will be out soon. They'll be expecting the same weak girl they've always known. Good, let them come. It's time to face my enemies. Today, I start taking back my home, and Belladonna won't know what hit her. In the cold isolation of my past life, the nights felt eternal, a hollow echo of a woman who had already given up. Every stitch I made, every heartbeat I counted, was just a reminder of the silence that filled this castle. But there was one light in that darkness, a face I could never forget, even after death. Genia was more than just a maid. She was the only soul who didn't look at me with pity or scorn. She would bring me what little she had, a small kindness that felt like a lifeline in a house that wanted me broken. I carried the guilt of her suffering for a lifetime, knowing she was punished for my sake. Back then, I blamed myself for the Duke's distance, for every shadow that haunted these halls. She was the one who tried to bridge the gap, making excuses for a man who wouldn't even look at me. Even when my heart was heavy with the weight of his absence and the Emperor's decrees, she was the only one who stayed to catch the tears I couldn't hide from the rest of the world. That's why I have to find her now, before the cycle of pain can start all over again. I won't let her be a victim of my story this time. I will be the one to protect her. Among the sea of busy faces in the courtyard, I search for the one heartbeat that matters. There, I found her. My heart leaps at the sight of her, so young and innocent, just as I remembered. But the air suddenly turns cold, a familiar chill that signals a storm is coming. I won't let her be a victim of my story this time. I will be the one to protect her. Among the sea of busy faces in the courtyard, I search for the one heartbeat that matters. There, I found her. My heart leaps at the sight of her, so young and innocent, just as I remembered. But the air suddenly turns cold, a familiar chill that signals a storm is coming. A voice cuts through the morning air, sharp and filled with a poison I know all too well. Belladonna, the woman who made my first life a living nightmare, has arrived. She stands there like a queen of a ruined kingdom, demanding obedience from everyone in her sight. Her eyes are already scanning the area, looking for a weakness to exploit or a spirit to crush. She assumes I'm just another girl lost in the garden, someone beneath her notice and her name. The audacity of her entrance is matched only by her ignorance of who is standing before her. She claims her word is law in a castle that isn't hers to rule, and she expects everyone to tremble. I'll let her have her moment of arrogance. It will only make her eventual fall more satisfying. She looks at me as if I'm nothing more than a freshly hired maid, waiting for my fear to show. But I am Amber Telesto, and I am the lady of this house now. I'm not that timid girl anymore. The shock that flickers in her eyes is the first payment on a very long debt I intend to collect. I offer her a smile, one that is as sharp as any blade I could carry. Oh, you've made a mistake, mother-in-law, a very big one. She tries to recover her poise, but the ground beneath her feet is already shifting. I remember everything, especially how she took my dowry as if it were her own to spend. Her composure is starting to crack, and she can't stand that I'm the one holding the hammer. She's boiling under that elegant facade, furious that a timid creature would dare to speak up. Bold? No, I'm just finished being a doormat for this family's greed. She thinks I'm just acting tough to try and adapt to a strange place. Let her think what she wants. She has no idea how deep this transformation goes. She talks of the laws of the East as if they justify her theft of my future, claiming she spent my dowry on the estate when we both know it went to her jewelry box. The lie is as transparent as the pearls around her neck, and I won't let it pass. She tells me not to feel bad about the luxuries she stole, as if she's doing me a favor. Most of the things I enjoyed are gone, and she expects me to accept this quietly? To insult me in front of the entire staff? She really hasn't changed a bit. My hands clench, but I won't give her the satisfaction of seeing me lose my temper. I see your intentions clearly, and I understand exactly what kind of game you're playing. If the law says my assets belong to my husband, then your opinion comes after his. The silence that follows is deafening. I've just stripped away her only defense. I'm not the girl who cried in the dark anymore. I'm the one setting the terms. The higher law is quite clear, and it doesn't leave any room for your greed. Every word is a strike against her influence, and she can feel the power slipping away. The sound of her fan snapping shut is the sound of her losing her final grip on control. She laughs to hide her panic, but we both know she's been cornered by her own rules. She tries to turn the staff against me to humiliate the narrow-minded Westerner. But when her words fail, she resorts to the only thing she knows, violence. She strikes out at Genia, the easiest target in her path, just like she did before. Genia falls, and for a second, I see the past repeating itself right before my eyes. I won't let it happen. I rush to her side, shielding her from the woman who wants her broken. Belladonna's rage is a pathetic display of a dying power, and I won't move an inch. She threatens me with a whip, forgetting that I am no longer her victim. Stop. The word is a command, and the fire in my eyes tells her I mean it. She thinks she can rule through fear, but she's just a ghost of a nightmare I've already survived. I look her in the eye and show her what real strength looks like, and she can't stand it. I will defy her for every soul she's crushed, and I will protect this girl with everything I have. She promises I'll regret this, but her voice is trembling more than mine ever will. Then the world goes still as a long shadow falls across the courtyard stone. The one person who can end this confrontation stands before us, his presence overwhelming. Carlax is home, and he's seeing his family's true colors for the very first time. Belladonna's eyes go wide as she swings around, her fake, practiced smile barely masking the shock of seeing Carlax standing right there. Carlax doesn't waste time with pleasantries. His voice is a low, dangerous rumble as he demands to know exactly what he just walked into. Belladonna stammers, the sweat starting to bead on her forehead as she realizes her casual cruelty had an audience. She tries to play it off as a simple mother-in-law spat, a minor disagreement about a dowry that she clearly feels entitled to. Amber watches them, her hands clenched tight. The familiar sting of being belittled in her own home is still so fresh. She wonders why he had to show up now. In her past life, his presence never brought her peace, only more complications. Amber knows the history. Carlix has never gone against his father, and Belladonna was always the old Duke's favorite. She stares at him, waiting for the inevitable rebuke, waiting for him to tell her to just be quiet and obey. If he would just stay silent, it would be a mercy. Anything he says now will likely only cut her deeper. Carlix repeats the word dowry as if it's a foreign concept, his eyes narrowing on Belladonna. Belladonna tries to justify her theft, claiming the East District needed the funds and Amber simply wouldn't understand the complexity of the situation. The temperature in the garden drops as Carlix speaks. He doesn't care about the district. He cares that she laid hands on his wife's property. A visible shudder runs through Belladonna. She's never seen this side of him, this protective, icy fury. She tries to interject, to explain herself further, but he cuts her off before she can even finish his name. He makes it clear that the conversation is over. He needs to speak with his wife, and he needs to do it now. Belladonna is indignant, her face twisting as she tries to claim this is a private matter between women, a dynamic he shouldn't interfere with. She warns him not to make her a laughingstock, but her desperation is starting to show as he turns his back on her. In a move that shocks everyone present, the Duke extends his hand to Amber, his voice softening just a fraction as he asks her to rise. Belladonna is aghast. The lack of respect, the breaking of the social order she spent years building, is crumbling before her eyes. Amber is frozen. This isn't the man she remembers. This isn't how this scene played out in the world that ended. She searches his face for a sign of a trick, a hidden motive for this sudden display of chivalry. His expression remains curt and indifferent, the same mask he's always worn, which only makes his actions more confusing. As she looks at him, a memory flashes through her mind, a vision of the man he became. In the future she escaped, his face was a roadmap of trauma, covered in the jagged scars of a brutal war. In her past life, those scars were all she saw. Each one seemed to represent another layer of ice he built around his heart. She remembers the sight of his back, marred and broken, a testament to the horrors he endured on the battlefield. He was a beast back then, a man who had seen too much and felt too little, leaving her alone in the cold. But now, he is unmarred, he is whole. And for the first time, Amber realizes the war hasn't taken its toll yet. The realization pulls her back to the present. She remembers her maid, the only one who has truly been on her side. A young man approaches, offering to take the injured girl to get the medical attention she desperately needs. Carlix gives a sharp nod, directing them away. He is efficient, commanding, and still utterly unreadable. Amber watches them leave, feeling a sudden surge of vulnerability as she is left alone with her husband. She hesitates, her instincts screaming at her to run, but there is nowhere to go in this castle that he doesn't own. He turns to her, his gaze heavy. He has things to say, words that feel like they've been trapped behind his teeth for a long time. The silence in the room is suffocating as they face each other, the weight of a lifetime of misunderstandings sitting between them. Carlix reminds her that he is the owner of this castle. If she needs something, if she is being wronged, she should be telling him. Amber sighs, the irony of his request almost too much to bear. Tell him her requests, as if he would ever listen. She tells him plainly that she could never make a request of him. The trust is simply not there, and his flinch shows he knows why. He looks genuinely perplexed, as if he can't fathom why his own wife would treat him like a stranger. Amber reminds herself that this version of Carlix doesn't know about their history. He doesn't know the years of neglect he's already given her. He shifts the subject, stating firmly that he will ensure her entire dowry is returned to her immediately. Amber is stunned. She didn't think he would actually take a side, let alone hers, against his own family's interests. He hesitates, adding that it would be difficult for her to live in the East without her own funds, his voice sounding almost concerned. The disbelief is written all over Amber's face. She can't reconcile this man with the one who let her wither away in silence. A wave of bitterness washes over her. She assumes he thinks she's just like Belladonna, obsessed with luxuries and status symbols. She stands up abruptly, the conversation over as far as she's concerned. She has to get away before she says something she'll regret. Carlix tries to stop her, asking how the maid got hurt, but Amber is already halfway to the door. Her response is short and cold. She won't give him the satisfaction of her vulnerability, not today and maybe not ever. He reaches out as she turns to leave, his hand hanging in the air as she walks away without looking back. The door slams shut, a final, punctuating sound that leaves the Duke alone in the silence of his own grand room. He listens to the sound of her footsteps fading down the hall, each click of her heels sounding like a rejection. Carlix collapses into his chair with a heavy sigh, the weight of his own failure pressing down on his shoulders. He had gone looking for her because she missed breakfast, a small gesture of care that went completely unnoticed. Her words haunt him. She doesn't trust him, and he has no idea how to bridge the canyon that has opened up between them. He stares into the middle distance, his mind drifting back to the beginning, to the moment they became husband and wife. He remembers the dawn of their wedding day, the light breaking over the horizon as they prepared to bind their lives together. Amber had been so radiant, so ethereal in her white gown, a vision that felt almost too good to be true. He remembers the way his heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic rhythm he couldn't control. Back then, he felt a spark of hope, a desire to be the man she deserved, despite the coldness he projected to the world. But as he looks at the castle around him, he wonders if that hope was just a dream, and if they are both doomed to stay lost in the dark. So, we're taking a trip down memory lane to a few years ago, and let me tell you, things were looking rough for our Duke. He's at the palace, basically begging for a minute with the Emperor, but the guy won't even give him the time of day. Denied. Khalees is absolutely floored. Like, excuse me? He didn't come all this way just to be snubbed at the front door. He's trying to push past the guards because he's desperate, but they're just like, back off, buddy. This is what the big boss wants. Now beat it. You can see the panic in his eyes. He's literally shouting for His Majesty, trying to explain that the East is basically a monster buffet right now, and they need help, like yesterday. He's literally pouring his heart out, but it's like talking to a brick wall. The desperation is just heartbreak. And just like that, he's forced to walk away. The silence in that hallway, you can practically feel the weight of defeat on his shoulders with every step. He's so frustrated, he literally slams his fist against the wall. I mean, can you blame him? He's trying to save his people and he's getting zero support. He's cursing under his breath, feeling totally powerless. This is the heavy crown he's been carrying long before Amber even entered the picture. Now, get this. Back in the day, the East District was a total paradise. We're talking vineyards for days, super lush and just beautiful. But then, the monster waves hit, famine followed, and nobody even knows why. It went from vacation goals to a total desolate wasteland real quick. And the worst part? The Emperor did not care at all. He treated the East like a pawn he was ready to sacrifice in a game of chess. The real tea is that the Emperor is actually terrified. He's scared of the military power the House of Talisto holds. It's totally a keep your enemies closer situation, except he's just being a jerk instead. But Khalees is just a kid here, thinking, hey, we don't even want the throne, we're just trying to survive. His father looks so weary, doesn't he? He knows the truth. Power makes people paranoid, and they're the ones paying the price for it. The Emperor is playing a dangerous game, moving pieces around without a single thought for the lives he's ruining. Even as a young boy, Callus could see it. They were being treated like a threat just because they were strong enough to protect themselves. So they had to swallow their pride and bow down to the imperial family just to get the tiniest bit of help. It's honestly so degrading. Callus is just standing there, wondering how much longer they have to live like this. He's already so tired of the politics and the suffering. Looking out at the cracked, dry earth, it's like he's looking at his own future, just empty and hopeless. He's convinced they're just waiting for complete defeat. Talk about a dark headspace to be in. But then a breeze blows through, carrying the scent of flowers, and everything changes. Spring has arrived, and for a second, the gloom lifts. He hears laughter nearby and turns to see what's going on. And there she is, Lady Amber, right in the middle of a garden, looking like a literal dream. Everyone is fawning over her because she's just that stunning. Callus is just frozen. He can't even look away. It's like he's seeing color for the first time in his life. She's so bright and happy, surrounded by flowers that match her hair. She's the complete opposite of the dusty, gray world he's used to. His heart starts doing that thump-thump thing. He's totally smitten, and he doesn't even know her name yet. I mean, look at her. She's glowing. It's like a scene straight out of a romance novel, and Callus is the main lead who just got hit by lightning. He's watching her from the balcony, totally mesmerized. He's never seen anything so pretty in his entire life. Then he hears the gossip. Is that Amber Riarte, the rich merchant's daughter? The commoners are all buzzing about her family's insane wealth. Callus listens to them talk, and you can see the realization hitting him. She's not just beautiful, she's powerful in a way he isn't. He turns away, thinking she's from a completely different world, like she's the sun and he's just a shadow in the east. Flash forward to winter, and things have taken a major turn. The castle is covered in snow, and the mood is just as cold. Callus is looking at a document, and he can't believe his eyes. His marriage partner is Amber Riarde, the girl from the garden? He's totally shook. He never thought their paths would actually cross like this. He's stressing out, wondering what the Emperor is thinking. Is this a gift or some kind of weird trap? But more importantly, he's worried he can't provide for her. He's looking at his empty coffers, thinking he can't even afford the lace on her dress. The struggle is real. And then the day comes. The carriage pulls up, and the clunk of the wheels sounds like a countdown to his doom. Amber steps out, and she looks so nervous. She's clutching her chest, looking around at this cold, strange place. My poor girl is terrified. Callus is just standing there, gulping. He wants to say something, but he's so intimidated by her elegance and his own lack of resources. She glances at him, then quickly turns away. The awkwardness, it is off the charts. They're both just two strangers forced into a marriage they don't understand. He decides right then that he has to go to battle. He thinks if he can just get some monster cores to sell, he can actually support her and keep her in the lifestyle she's used to. He's literally clenching his fist, feeling so guilty that she has to live off her own dowry. His pride is taking a major hit here. He's walking away again, staring into the dark, wondering if he'll ever truly be able to take care of her. He feels like a failure before they've even started. Back in the present, he's still beating himself up. He thinks Amber hates him, and honestly, he hates himself for how he's handled everything. Major facepalm moment, Duke. Meanwhile, Amber is being a total saint. She's checking on Jenya, the maid who got hurt, and the doctor says she'll be fine after some rest. Phew! Amber is so relieved she lets out a huge sigh. You can see how much she actually cares about the people working for her. She's even helping out with the chores, wringing out towels like a pro. She's not just a pretty face, she's getting her hands dirty. She asks Jenya to look up, and the poor girl is so startled. She's not used to a noble being this attentive. Jenya is literally shaking, asking why Amber is being so nice to a lowly person. It's so sad that she thinks so little of herself, but Amber just gives her the sweetest smile and says, "You protected me. How could I not be thankful?" Ah, my heart. She's insisting on showing her gratitude, but Jenya is still totally flustered and mumbling. It's honestly the cutest interaction. Jenya and the other maids are bowing like crazy, calling her Little Mistress. They are officially obsessed with her kindness. But Amber is feeling a bit down. She's thinking about how she's only the Little Mistress and doesn't have the full influence yet because of Belladonna. It's disheartening, but she's not giving up. She's just quietly fiddling with her cloth, thinking about her place in this castle. She wants to do more, but it's an uphill battle. Jenya speaks up again, looking all nervous. She's about to drop some truth on Amber, and you can tell she's overstepping her boundaries, but she just has to say it. She tells Amber that she actually likes that she's from the West. Amber is like, wait, what? Really? She's totally confused. Why would being from the West, the place everyone in the East seems to resent, be a good thing? Jenya explains that it's not just her. All the laundry maids were hoping the Duke's wife would be from a foreign land. They were all rooting for her. Amber is leaning in, totally intrigued now. She's like, okay, spill the tea. Why were you all hoping for someone like me? Jenya's heart is racing. You can practically hear the thump-thump from here. She's about to say something big. She looks at Amber with so much hope in her eyes and says, they thought if someone came from the West, they might actually be able to change the Duke's castle. Amber is stunned. She didn't realize she was the beacon of hope everyone was waiting for. This is the moment she realizes she has a real purpose here, real mission. Duchess Belladonna is basically the queen of this castle, and let's be real, absolutely nothing happens in the East without her knowing about it. She's got her eyes everywhere. Poor Jenya is visibly shaking. Just the mention of the Duchess is enough to make anyone in this place want to curl up and hide. Our girl is starting to realize that the Duchess isn't exactly winning any popularity contests. She's not someone people follow out of loyalty. It's all fear. But the real question is, why is Jenya choosing this exact moment to spill all this to her? There's definitely something more going on. Then, out of nowhere, Jenya literally drops to the floor. She's begging to be taken under her wing. Talk about a dramatic plea for help. She actually believes that our girl is the only one who can change the destiny of this entire castle. No pressure, right? It hits her hard. She can feel her heart thumping because this is the first time someone has truly looked at her with hope. She knows it's because she's acting completely different than she did in her past life. She's finally standing her ground. In her past life, she was just a shadow of herself, crying alone while everything around her crumbled. But that version of her is officially dead and buried. She reaches out and tells Jenya to stand up. This isn't just a mistress and a maid anymore. This is the start of a real alliance. Jenya is practically in tears. You can tell she's been waiting so long for someone to finally give her a chance. That smile says it all. She's determined to protect the people who believe in her this time around. She helps Jenya up, promising herself that she will definitely succeed. Failure is not an option in this life. The sun is out and the sky is clear, but we all know that in this castle, the weather is the only thing that's predictable. First things first, she needs to fuel up. You can't plot a revolution or handle a moody duke on an empty stomach. But of course, as soon as she steps into the dining room, she hears those heavy footsteps. She knows exactly who it is. It's Carlix! And honestly, he looks just as caught off guard as she does. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a butter knife. She's totally confused. Since when does he eat his meals here? This is definitely a change from the usual routine. She can't help but wonder why they keep crossing paths so often lately. It's like the universe is forcing them into the same room. Then the food starts arriving and oh my god, it looks incredible. The rattle of the plates is like music to her ears. But then she notices more servants coming in and more. Wait, how much food did they actually prepare? She's staring at this absolute feast like, is there a secret party I wasn't invited to? This is way too much for just 2 people. The chef is all smiles, saying he prepared a perfect luncheon. But Carlix looks like he wants to disappear. He specifically asked to eat alone. The chef is sweating bullets now, explaining that since the Duke asked for special care, he naturally assumed they were dining together. Carlix is giving him the ultimate death glare. The staff is literally scampering away to avoid the fallout. When the Duke is annoyed, you do not want to be in the splash zone. So now she's sitting there looking at this massive spread, wondering if this whole feast was actually meant just for her. Carlix is trying so hard to act like everything is normal, but the awkward silence is deafening. This is definitely more than just married couple duty. She takes a bite, and her eyes practically light up. It's delicious. Maybe this awkward lunch isn't so bad after all. She's just happily munching away, totally lost in the flavors, while Carlix watches her with that unreadable expression of his. Is he actually softening up? He looks almost peaceful watching her eat. It's a total 180 from his usual cold self. Plate cleared. She did not leave a single crumb. When she says she's hungry, she really means it. She is beyond satisfied. Even in her past life, she never experienced this kind of luxury in the East. She's feeling pretty spoiled right now. She steals a quick glance at him. He definitely went through all this trouble on purpose, didn't he? He's trying in his own weird way. He's just sitting there with his wine, looking all brooding and handsome. It's like he's waiting for her to say something. She finally decides to break the ice. She can't just sit there in silence after he provided such an insane meal. She acknowledges the extra care he put into this. It's a small step, but it feels like a huge breakthrough for them. And all he says is a simple, "Thank you." Seriously? That's all we get after all that drama with the chef? She's just staring at him like, are you for real right now? The man is a total mystery. The silence is back, and it's getting embarrassing. She's overthinking every second of this. Her heart starts doing that annoying thumping thing again. Why is he making her feel so flustered just by sitting there? Wait, is he blushing? Oh my God, the cold Duke is actually turning red. This is the highlight of my day. He starts chugging his wine like he's trying to drown his embarrassment. He is definitely not as cool as he tries to act. Now he's coughing and sputtering. She's genuinely worried he's going to choke. Someone get this man some water. She's watching him with a mix of concern and complete confusion. Is this really the same guy from her memory? He finally catches his breath and tries to regain some dignity. He's clearly trying to change the subject to something professional. He mentions that the squad is heading out tomorrow to deal with some monsters. Back to reality, I guess. She knows this is common in the East, and usually their knights can handle it. But something about this feels different this time. The real danger isn't just monsters, it's the looming war with the Kale Kingdom. That's the real storm on the horizon. In her past, that war was the beginning of the end. It was the moment the House of Callisto started its tragic fall from grace. They were forced into it by an imperial decree they couldn't ignore. It was a trap they didn't see coming until it was too late. If they want to survive the aftermath this time, they have to become stronger. They can't just wait for the disaster to happen. She offers to help, but he immediately shuts her down. He tells her not to concern herself with the matters of the East. She's like, "Excuse me?" She's not just some decoration in this castle, and she's not about to let him push her aside. He just wants her to stay safely tucked away inside the castle walls. He has no idea who he's actually dealing with. She stands up with total authority. She's about to challenge everything he thinks he knows about her. She looks him right in the eye and asks if he'll still say that once she proves she can save the entire East District. Mic drop. She is officially done being a damsel in distress. I literally just dropped the biggest bombshell ever. I looked him straight in the eyes and said, I can solve the food shortage in the East. Mic drop. And Carlex is just sitting there like, wait, what did you just say? He's totally caught off guard by my sudden confidence. He tries to get all serious, turning away and telling me the East's problems are way deeper than just a normal famine. Like, I don't already know? Oh, honey, believe me, I know. I have the memories of a whole other life to prove it. The land is basically a wasteland. No rain for 50 years and everything's just falling into ruins. It's heartbreaking, really. He's literally stressing out because nobody has been able to figure out why this is happening. The cause is a complete mystery to everyone but me. I know I sound like I've totally lost it, but I need him to listen. Just give me a chance to explain. In my past life, they didn't even start looking for a real solution until 8 years from now. That's 8 more years of suffering. But with what I know now, I can fast forward this whole process and save everyone before things become unsalvageable. Everything depends on meeting one specific person. As long as I can find her, we have a fighting chance. And of course, he interrupts me. He's all like, I'll take care of the East. Seriously, let me finish. He basically tells me there's no need for me to step up. Sir, do you realize how much I'm trying to help you right now? Ugh, I am fuming. You can literally see the anger clenching inside me. I am not having this condescending attitude. I had to ask him, does he think I'm just here for decoration? Like I'm just some pretty statue to look at? I'm not a doll. I'm a human being. I stood my ground and told him exactly how I felt. I told him straight to his face, I am not some trophy to be tucked away in a display case while he does all the work. That actually got a reaction. He slams the table and insists he'd never think of me that way. He sounds genuinely shocked. He's clenching his fist so hard. The tension in this room is actually insane right now. I think I finally got through to him. He finally admits he just wanted me to live a comfortable life, away from the misery of the East. He was actually trying to protect me this whole time. Wait, what? I was totally not expecting him to say that. My brain is literally buffering. He cared? It's a lot to take in. All those years I thought he was cold, he was actually just trying to spare me the pain. He lets out this huge sigh, looking like he's finally letting his guard down just a tiny bit. Look at him gulping. My cold husband is actually feeling things. He's visibly nervous now. I had to remind him, I'm here as the Duchess of Telesto. I'm his wife, and I want to do my part. He looks away, and honestly, the vibe has shifted so much. The ice is starting to melt, and it's getting floral. So I ask him again, a bit softer this time. I'm asking him for a favor, wife to husband. I need him to send an official invitation to the house of Freya. I have to meet the Count's daughter. And then he turns away, but is he blushing? Carlix is actually turning red. I am screaming. He brings up how I once said I'd never ask him for anything. Oh, he's definitely taking this request to heart. I'm just standing there like, is he upset? Why is he reacting like this? This is not the Carlix I remember from before. I literally have zero memory of saying I'd never trust him. Like, girl, did I really say that? My past life trauma is real. The silence is so loud. We're just staring at each other across this giant empty table. He finally facepalms and tells me to just forget he said anything. Talk about a major mood swing. He agrees. He says he'll be more than happy to write the invitation. That's a huge win for me. But he's still curious. He wants to know what business I could possibly have with Count Freya's daughter. I can't help but grin. I'm finally getting exactly what I need to start my plan. I told him she's the most important clue to solving the famine. I have to keep some secrets for now, though. Wait, his heart is going thump thump? Is he falling for me right now? This was not in the script. Look at that blush. He is absolutely smitten, and he doesn't even know how to handle these feelings. I decide to keep things professional and tell him I'll just send future requests through a servant to save him trouble. I figured it would be more comfortable for both of us since he's always so busy. I was trying to be helpful. Wrong. He clenches his jaw and looks totally dejected. Girl, I think I just accidentally broke his heart. I just give him a polite little smile, totally oblivious to the fact that he actually wanted more direct contact. He just gives me this short, grumpy, let's do so, and the move goes totally dark again. Men are such a mystery. I am literally so confused. Why did the vibe just die? I was just trying to be respectful of his time. I head back to my room and slam the door. I need to get my head back in the game and focus on the mission. I flop into my chair with a huge sigh. Since when did Carlix make faces like that? He was a stone-cold wall in my past life. Seriously, look at that face. That is a man who is clearly going through it. I never saw this side of him before. Back then, we didn't even look at each other properly. I always felt like everything was my fault and lived in fear. But whatever, let's not dwell on that. At least he's listening to me now. That's one major hurdle clear. Now it's time for the next item on my Save the Duchy checklist, my dowry. I need to see what assets I have. I start unrolling the scrolls. I need to be smart about how I use my wealth if I'm going to make a difference here. Jewels are nice, but they don't grow food. I need to figure out how to put these to better use for the East. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. I put my thoughts aside for a second and tell them to come in. Enter Heinley Jasper, the head butler. This man is the definition of old-school loyalty and class. This man has served 3 generations. He's so dedicated, he didn't even leave when the family was accused of treason. He's a real one. In my past life, he always seemed to be observing me, comparing me to that snake, Belladonna. He never really took a side, though. But things are going to be so different this time around. I'm going to earn his respect and make him an ally. I give him a confident, warm smile. It's time to show this household that there's a new Duchess in town and she means business. So, Amber calls in Heinrich because it's time to get down to business and she is not playing around. She drops the absolute bombshell that she wants her entire dowry, every single jewel, to be used for the territory. Heinrich is literally gasping for air. The entirety of the dowry? Does she even realize how much wealth that is? But Amber is as cool as a cucumber. She's ready to have a serious discussion about where this money is going. Heinrich is hesitating, and you can see the internal struggle on his face. He's probably wondering if this is some kind of trick. Amber knows exactly what he's thinking. She's the new girl here, and trust isn't something you just get on day one. Plus, she's fully aware of the massive cultural divide between the East and the West. She calls it out directly. He doesn't trust her because of where she's from, and she's not going to pretend otherwise. See, the empire is basically split. The West is all about that new money and open-minded vibe. The nobles there made their fortunes in business, they're loud, they're fun, and they don't care about old-school rules. But the East, they are conservative with a capital C. They look at the Westerners like they're total barbarians. In her past life, Amber was absolutely shredded by these stereotypes. People whispered that she was just some extravagant girl with no substance, but she's proving them all wrong. This isn't about being a hero or loving the East. She saw the reality on her way to the castle, ruined lands, and people literally starving to death. She tells him straight up, she values lives more than her own lavish lifestyle, period. Heinrich is starting to see that she's the real deal, but he has to give her the cold, hard number. If they sell everything, we're talking 5 million stars. That is a staggering amount of money. Heinrich is actually gulping. 5 million stars just to save the serfs? He's never seen anything like this. Amber just gives him this knowing, gentle smile. She's got him right where she wants him. She extends her hand, basically asking him, "Are you with me or not?" And just like that, Heinrich is sold. He bows down, ready to take orders from his new Duchess. They dive right into the logistics. Amber isn't just throwing money at the problem. She has a plan. She's got a list, she's checking it twice, and she looks like an absolute boss while doing it. Hours pass as they iron out the details of how to save the duchy from the brink of collapse. The paperwork is piling up, but Amber's focus is razor sharp. She points out the areas that need the most help. She's settling things that have been ignored for years. But wait, there's more. She's not finished yet. She's ordering food, clothes, blankets, and even animal fat to keep everyone warm. She's thought of everything. She notices Heinrich staring at her and gets a little self-conscious. Is something wrong? He's just floored. He tells her she's incredibly skilled, and honestly, he's probably a little intimidated. Amber just shrugs it off. This is her home now, so obviously she did her homework before arriving. Heinrich realizes he was totally wrong to worry about her being too young or inexperienced. While he's admiring her, Amber is already moving on to the next crisis. There's no rest for the driven. Heinrich can't help but smile. All his doubts completely gone. The sun starts to set, and the castle is bathed in this beautiful orange light, but the mood is getting heavy. Everything is being handled, but there's one major issue that's still eating at her. Count Nasto. He's a total snake who's been overcharging them and making shady deals. Heinrich shakes his head. In this area, Nasto is the only game in town for weapons. They're stuck. Amber goes quiet. She knows that if they try to go elsewhere, Nasto will just interfere and make things worse. But she knows the future. She knows wars are coming, and they can't go into battle with worn-out gear. If they don't get new weapons, the kingdom is doomed. She's searching her memories for a solution. She remembers the drama from her past life, the way her father always prioritized her sister, Natasha. The pain of being the second choice still stings, even now. She remembers the arguments and the heartbreak of never feeling like she was enough. She had to run away from that life, and she's not going back to being that weak girl. She sighs, realizing she has to find a deal that bypasses Nasto's influence entirely. It's going to be a long shot, but it's unavoidable. She picks up her pen and starts to write. The sound of her pen scratching against the paper fills the room late into the night. She's determined to save this place. Finally, the moon is high over the castle and the day's work is done. Amber is absolutely exhausted. She's walking to her room, just dreaming of her bed. She's reflecting on how crazy it is to be back in time, but the reality of the work ahead is really hitting her. Suddenly, a cold breeze hits her. Why on earth is her window open? She looks over at the balcony, and there's a shadow sitting there in the moonlight. Her heart skips a beat. She wasn't expecting anyone to be in her room at this hour. The curtains flutter, revealing the man sitting on the ledge, looking like a total brooding main character. It's the Duke. Khalees is just hanging out on her balcony in his shirt? Amber is stunned. What is he doing here? The door clicks shut and the tension in this room is already off the charts. You can just feel the drama brewing in the air tonight. Amber literally flinches as Calix walks toward her. I mean, can you blame her? The man is walking around looking like a whole snack, but with the coldest vibes ever. He doesn't even say hello, he just grabs the candle right out of her hand. Okay, rude, but also, why is he being so assertive all of a sudden? He sets it down and they just stand there in the dim light. It is so awkward, I can barely breathe. Someone say something, please. Then he drops the bomb. He asks her if she was waiting for him. Wait, is he actually interested in her schedule now? He just stares at her with those piercing blue eyes, waiting for an answer. The silence is loud, girl, extremely loud. Amber is panicking internally. She's literally thinking, why isn't he responding? Why is he just staring at me like that? He finally turns to face her fully, and you just know whatever comes out of his mouth next is going to be a game changer. And then he says it. Yes, he was waiting for her. He even calls her wife. My jaw is on the floor. Who is this man, and what did he do with the old Calix? Amber is absolutely stunned. She can't even find her words. Her heart is probably doing gymnastics right now. He tells her there's no need to wait up in the future and to just sleep first. Is he being considerate? I'm suspicious. Amber just flops onto the bed, totally overwhelmed. She's thinking, wait, didn't he originally want them to live completely separate lives? She steals a glance at him from the pillows. She's trying to figure out his angle because this change of heart is way too sudden. But then she catches a good look at him and her heart starts going ba-dump. Girl, same. He is way too handsome for his own good. Look at that sparkle in his eye. He's looking like a literal prince from a fairy tale. How is she supposed to stay mad at that? He is standing there looking like a total dream. If I were her, I'd be forgetting all about the past life drama for a second, too. Her heart is just thumping away. She's blushing so hard. The chemistry is finally starting to sizzle, and I am here for it. She gasps and has to turn away before she loses her cool completely. She is definitely feeling some type of way right now. She's literally telling herself to pull it together. She has to remind herself that this is Calyx, the same guy who was so cold before. She finally asks him if he's going to sleep. She's trying to keep things casual, but you can hear the nerves in her voice. And wait, is he blushing? He starts stuttering out a response. The big bad Duke is actually flustered. Amber remembers him saying he didn't want to share a bed. She's thinking, okay, I get it. The rejection is still on the table. She stands up and grabs her pillow, ready to head to the sofa. She's like, fine, if you don't want me here, I'm out. But he looks so confused. He calls out to her like he wasn't expecting her to actually leave. Talk about mixed signal. She drops her stuff on the small sofa with a thud. She is officially moving out of the big bed for the night. She curls up and just says, good night. She is shutting it down. If he wants distance, she's giving it to him. Amber lies there thinking about how this isn't their first night together, but in this life, everything feels so brand new. Then a thought hits her. She stops mid-thought and her eyes go wide. She just realized something huge. She realizes that for this version of Calyx, this is actually his first time in a situation like this. He's a total beginner. Look at him. He is blushing so hard he might actually combust. He is way more innocent than she realized. Amber decides to take charge. She asks him to sit down for a moment so they can actually talk like adults. He sits down, but he is so stiff he looks like a statue. The man is absolutely terrified of her right now. He lets out a huge sigh and stays totally tense. He is clearly not used to being this close to a woman, especially his wife. She tells him to just relax. She says they don't have to do anything difficult. She's trying to put him at ease, but he looks even more confused. She explains that if they just act the part tomorrow morning, everyone else will get the right idea. It's all about the optics, honey. She's basically telling him it's just a formality. She really just friend-zoned her own husband in the middle of their bedroom. Calyx's hand slides against the seat. He is definitely not liking where this conversation is going. You can see the frustration. Then he hits her with a question of his own. How does she know he doesn't want to sleep with her? Oh, he's challenging her now. Amber hesitates. She can't exactly tell him she knows because of her past life. She's backed into a corner here. She remembers how he literally went to war just to get away from her before. Those memories still sting. She tells him that, judging by the situation, it's obvious. And then she adds that she doesn't like it either. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. Calyx looks completely crushed. He literally says, I don't like it either. Wait, does he mean he does want to be with her? Amber stays firm, though. She's not letting him wiggle his way out of this without some serious explanation. He clenches his hand and asks the most heartbreaking question ever. Wife, do you not like me? My heart just broke for him. Amber just stares at him. This is the moment of truth. Is she going to be honest or keep her guard up? She gives a tiny nod and says, that's why. She is sticking to her guns. She is not making this easy for him. They just sit there in the silence. The gap between them on those chairs feels like a whole ocean right now. She stands up and ends the talk. She's like, okay, since we're done, I'm taking the bed because I'm tired. Queen energy. She climbs into the big bed and gets settled. She is done with the drama for one night and just wants some sleep. She pulls the covers all the way up, creating a literal wall between her and the rest of the room. As she lies there, she reminds herself of her mission. She's determined to protect the East and everyone living there this time around. She thinks about the future and the people she's responsible for. She's got a lot on her plate, and she can't let Calyx distract her. But most of all, she thinks about her child. She wants to see that child again more than anything in the world. She knows that in order to do that, she has to have a relationship with Calix, but it's just so complicated. She closes her eyes, trying to think everything through. She needs a solid plan if she's going to survive this marriage again. Finally, she starts to drift off. She's thinking that at the end of the day, a comfortable bed really is the best thing ever. Suddenly, there are footsteps. Someone is moving around in the dark. Is he actually coming over? Calix quietly climbs into the bed beside her. He's being so careful not to wake her up. Look at him. He's actually staying. Amber is fast asleep, totally unaware that her husband is inches away from her. She is out like a light. He just watches her sleep with the saddest, most longing look in his eyes. He is completely whipped, and he knows it. He lets out a heavy sigh and wonders if she only finds peace once she's away from him. This man is going through it, y'all. The sun rises over the Thelesto estate, but the warmth of the morning doesn't reach the heavy weight in my chest. Today is the day they leave for war. I wake up to a room that feels far too large and far too empty. In my past life, this coldness was all I knew, but this time, it's different. A yawn escapes me as I struggle to shake off the lingering exhaustion of a restless night. My mind is already miles away, on the battlefield where so many will fall. The sheets beside me are cold. Calix is already gone. Did he leave without even a word of goodbye? The thought sends a sharp, familiar sting through my heart. I force myself out of bed, stretching the tension from my limbs. I can't afford to be weak or sentimental. Not today. I need to find him. I need to see the men who are about to march toward their graves. I find him standing by the window, his back to me. He looks like a statue, carved from duty and stone. "Duke?" I call out softly, my voice barely a whisper in the vast, silent room. He turns, and for a fleeting second, the harsh lines of his face soften. He looks surprised to see me. His eyes, usually as cold as the northern sea, seem to search mine for an answer to a question he hasn't asked yet. He notes that I'm up early. I tell him the truth. I wanted to see the nights off. I wanted to be there before the world falls apart again. He simply nods, his expression returning to that unreadable mask of stoicism. It's like trying to talk to a fortress. He tells me he'll be waiting at the training grounds. His steps are purposeful, echoing with the weight of the command he carries. I watch the door close behind him, the silence rushing back in to fill the space he left. He looks flawless, even at this hour, as if the burden of war is nothing more than a well-fitted cloak. Was he dressed like that all night? He doesn't look like a man who slept. He looks like a man prepared for an end. Outside, the sky is a mocking, perfect blue. It's a beautiful day for a tragedy. At the training grounds, the air is thick with the scent of horses and oiled leather. Calix is already deep in discussion with his officers. I approach them, my presence causing a ripple of hushed whispers among the ranks. They aren't used to a Duchess who cares about the soldiers. I ask if they are leaving soon, trying to keep my voice steady. I want them to see a leader, not a grieving widow in waiting. Calix looks at me, and I see a flicker of something. Is it guilt? Or perhaps just the realization that I am no longer the passive girl he once ignored. A young knight interrupts, his face bright with a smile that feels far too innocent for the journey ahead. He thanks me for my help with Genya. It was a small gesture, but to these men, any kindness from the highborn is a rare treasure. He introduces himself as Dennis Bertrand. I thank him, but my heart aches knowing how many names like his I'll eventually have to cross off a list. Calix's eyes narrow as he watches our exchange. The possessive tension radiating from him is almost palpable. He places a hand on Dennis's shoulder, a gesture that looks like camaraderie but feels like a warning. He calls the knight's name, pulling his attention back to the duty at hand. Dennis laughs it off, suddenly remembering urgent business. The mood shifts back to the grim reality of the departure. Everything is ready. The word travels through the yard like a cold wind. Calix gestures for me to follow. "This way," he says, leading me toward the front of the formation. I walk beside him, the rhythmic tap of our boots on the stone, the only sound in the sudden, expectant silence of the nights. I look out at them, and for a moment, the world blurs. I don't see soldiers, I see ghosts. The Telesto Knights, the pride of the East, and the primary victims of the Kale War. In my previous life, most of these men died protecting Calix. They never saw their families again. They were buried in nameless graves under a gray sky. I clench my hands into fists. Their lives are in my hands now. I won't let history repeat itself. I won't let them be discarded like broken toys. "Calix," I say, my voice gaining a strength I didn't know I possessed. I ask for his permission to speak to the knights. He looks startled, but he doesn't refuse me. I step forward, my heels clicking against the cobbles. Every eye is on me, some skeptical, some curious, others merely tired. In the shadows, the former Duchess watches with a sneer, expecting me to embarrass myself with empty platitudes. She thinks I'm just playing a role. She thinks I'm a child playing at being a ruler. I ignore her venomous gaze. I am Amber Thalstow, and I have a message for the men who are about to bleed for this land. I tell them I know they are busy and that I won't waste their time with long speeches. I can see them glancing at one another, surprised by my directness. There is a stir in the ranks. They expected a lecture on glory. They are getting something else entirely. The commanders look on, their faces etched with the cynicism of long service. They wonder what this precious miss from the West could possibly have to say to them. I take a deep breath, the cold morning air filling my lungs. This is for them, and for the future I'm trying to build. I tell them honestly that I won't say thank you. Not yet. How could I when I've barely been here? I haven't earned the right to thank them for their lives. Gratitude without action is just an insult to their sacrifice. Instead, I offer them a promise, a contract between a duchess and her defenders. I promise them that while they are gone, I will do my absolute best to take care of the East. I will protect their homes as they protect our borders. I tell them to let go of their worries. Their wives, their children, their lands, they will be safe under my watch. "Come back after completing your duty," I say, a smile finally touching my lips. Just come back. The silence that follows is deafening. Even the most hardened commanders look stunned by the weight of my words. Calix stands behind me, his gaze fixed on my back. I can feel his eyes, heavy with a new kind of intensity. He exhales slowly, a faint blush creeping onto his cheeks. For the first time, he isn't just looking at his duchess, he's looking at me. Then, a single pair of hands begins to clap. It's the commander, his scarred face breaking into a look of genuine respect. The sound spreads like wildfire. Soon, the entire yard is roaring with applause. I've reached them. I've given them a reason to fight for more than just a crown. But not everyone is celebrating. The sound of a door slamming shut echoes my triumph with a threat of its own. The former duchess is trembling with rage, her hands gripping her fan so hard I expect it to snap. She can't stand to see me succeed. She mutters about teaching me a lesson, her eyes burning with a promise of violence. She thinks a whip will put me in my place, but she has no idea how far I've already moved beyond her reach. The horses whinny as the final preparations are made. The moment of departure is finally here. I seek out Sir Zate, the commander of the knights. I have one last thing to ensure before they ride out. He looks down at me, his expression wary but no longer dismissive. He asks what business I have with him. I speak to him privately, making sure the logistics of my promise are understood. I won't let my words be empty. Behind us, Calix watches every movement, his brooding silence filled with a growing conflict. He doesn't say anything, but his eyes tell the story. He's starting to realize that the woman he married isn't a burden to be carried, but the only one who can help him carry the world. I have to move carefully. Every alliance I build now is a shield against the tragedy I've already lived through once. Sir Jayat is a man of honor, but even he looks at me with a mixture of confusion and newfound respect. He wonders why I'm looking for something so specific, something that seems far beyond the concerns of a duchess. I can't reveal the full truth yet, but having the Duke's official backing makes my request impossible to ignore. I ask him if it's too much to ask, playing the part of the concerned wife while my mind is miles ahead. My promise is simple. I will protect the East. I will fix the mistakes of the past while the men are away at war. For a moment, I see a flicker of something in his eyes, actual belief. He admits he was surprised, but he doesn't pull away. The seeds of loyalty are finally being sown. A simple smile and a thank you are all it takes to seal the deal. I'm learning that soft power is often more effective than any decree. But I can feel eyes on me from the shadows. Calix is watching, his silence heavier than any reprimand. He turns away sharply, but the tension between us remains, thick and suffocating. Walking through these stone halls, I realize the distance between us isn't just physical. It's built on years of silence. We walk together, yet we are worlds apart, each step echoing the uncertainty of our strange new arrangement. He finally breaks the silence, asking what business I could possibly have with one of his knights. I freeze for a second. I wasn't expecting him to be so direct, or perhaps I wasn't expecting him to care. I tell him it's a request for the future, a vague answer for a man who demands absolute clarity. He stops me, his voice low. If I needed something, why didn't I just ask him? I fumble for an excuse, telling him it required an expedition, something I thought he wouldn't want to be bothered with. The lie tastes better. I'm trying to save him, yet I find myself keeping him at arm's length. Why did I make up an excuse? Am I still so afraid of him, or am I afraid of what happens if he actually helps me? Before the silence can become unbearable, a familiar voice calls out, breaking the spell. Heinrich arrives just in time, reporting that the matters we discussed yesterday are already prepared. He pauses, noticing the heavy atmosphere hanging over us like a storm cloud. The air is thick with awkwardness as he realizes he might have walked into a private and very tense moment. Calix doesn't wait. He dismisses me with a cold, formal wife that feels more like a barrier than a title. I watch him walk away, his back rigid. He's retreating into his shell again, and I'm left wondering what I did wrong. He tells me to find Heinrich if I need anything. It's a dismissal, plain and simple. I can only offer a small, strained acknowledgement as he stomps away, his footsteps echoing my own frustration. Why is he acting like this? One moment he's supportive, and the next he's colder than the winter winds. I shake it off. I have work to do. My office is the only place where I feel like I'm truly in control. A new face greets me today. Jenya, the girl I helped, is here to begin her service. She looks healthy, vibrant, and full of a gratitude that I'm still not used to receiving. She promises to do her absolute best as my exclusive maid. For the first time in this castle, I feel like I have a real ally. I tell her how grateful I am that she chose to stay. It wasn't an easy decision for her, but it means everything to me. Seeing her teary-eyed smile makes the struggle worth it. Having someone truly on my side is a luxury I never thought I'd have. I trust her enough to let her help me select the rest of the staff. I need people who are loyal to me, not the Duke's reputation. Now, the final piece of the puzzle, a lady in waiting, someone meticulous, someone who can handle the weight of my secrets. I instruct Heinrich to find someone who can read and write perfectly. I need a partner, not just a servant. Heinrich has one more thing for me, something that sets my heart racing. The reply from Count Freya has arrived. I sent the invitation using the Duke's name, but I didn't expect an answer so soon. It turns out Calix himself instructed them to reply without delay. He prioritized my request, even while acting so distant. He is concerned in his own way, isn't he? Behind that cold exterior, he's actually paying attention. I remember a different Calix, one who looked at me with something other than indifference. Was that real or just a dream I'm clinging to? Perhaps the distance between us isn't an insurmountable wall. Perhaps it's just a bridge that hasn't been built yet. I think back to the way he looked at me recently, the hesitation, the unsaid words. If he's willing to try, then I have to be willing to meet him halfway. The blush on his face in my memory tells a story he's too proud to speak out loud. But reality is less romantic. We are still two strangers sharing a bed and a title, trying to find our footing. If I treat him differently, will he change too? Or am I just setting myself up for another heartbreak? I snap back to the present, startled by my own wandering thoughts. I can't afford to get distracted by what-ifs. I have to focus on the reply. This letter holds the key to the survival of my people. I slide the letter open, my hands trembling slightly. Everything depends on this one connection. Far away, a carriage makes its way through the desolate landscape toward the castle. Inside, a father reassures his daughter. The Duke's invitation is a rare honor, but also a heavy burden. He tells her the Duchess specifically requested to meet her. The girl looks terrified, wondering why someone so powerful would care about her. She grips her book tightly, her face pale. She doesn't realize she's the answer to a prayer she never heard. Her father watches her with concern, knowing how much is at stake for their family. He tells her to stop worrying and look outside. The future is approaching, whether she's ready or not. The castle looms in the distance, a fortress of stone and secrets that will soon be her new home. Everything is happening so fast. If I can secure this girl's help, the food shortage that destroyed my past life can be resolved. She stares out at the gray sky, unaware that she is the most important person in my world right now. Laureate Freya. I need to meet that child. She is the final piece of the map to a future where we don't just survive, we thrive. Deep within the walls of the castle, a meeting is about to take place that will change the fate of the empire. But for now, the air is thick with the quiet tension of an uncertain future. Count Freya arrives with a practiced bow, offering the customary greetings of the East. Beside him, his daughter Laureate looks as if she wants nothing more than to disappear into the floorboards. I can't help but stare. This young girl, Laureate Freya, is the key to everything. In my past life, her brilliance was a legend, but right now, she is just a child trembling in the shadows. She catches my gaze and flinches, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and confusion. She has no idea why she has been summoned to such a grand place. She shuffles closer to her father, seeking a protection he has never truly provided. To him, she is a burden. To me, she is a savior. I offer a gentle smile, trying to ease the suffocating pressure in the room. I welcome them, but my focus never leaves the girl who carries a world of untapped potential. As we settle in, I drop the first bombshell. I reveal that it was not the Duke who requested their presence today, but I. The confusion on their faces is palpable. The Count is taken aback, his voice wavering as he asks why a noblewoman of my standing would have any interest in his daughter. He begins to apologize for her, calling her too shy and unworthy to even be a lady-in-waiting. Every word he speaks is a needle to her confidence, and I won't stand for it. I cut him off firmly. I didn't bring Laureate here to be a servant. I brought her here because she has something I desperately need. Laureate flinches again, her shoulders hunching. She has been told her whole life that she is useless, and she expects nothing but another criticism. She stares at her lap, the weight of her father's disappointment clearly visible in the slump of her frame. It's a wound I recognize all too well. I close my eyes for a moment, gathering my thoughts. It is time to show her that someone has been watching, and someone finally cares. I tell her directly that I have read her contributions to the horticultural papers. The shock that registers on her face is heartbreakingly pure. I mention her specific research on plant classification and crossbreeding. Her father looks bewildered, but Lariat's eyes begin to shimmer with a spark of hope. She can hardly believe it. She asks me if I truly read something she considered so trivial, her voice barely a whisper. Trivial? The word tastes bitter in my mouth. I look at her with all the sincerity I can muster, ready to dismantle that lie. Her heart begins to race, and I can almost hear the thumping in the silence of the room. This is the first time in her life her passion has been validated. The sheer weight of the moment is almost too much for her to bear. Years of being ignored are being washed away by a single sentence. She looks like she might collapse from the sheer intensity of her emotions, while her father remains completely out of his depth. Internally, she is screaming. For the first time, someone hasn't just noticed her, they've understood her work. It is the validation she has starved for. She stammers that her work was only published in a tiny, forgotten corner of a journal. She's still trying to protect herself from the possibility that this isn't real, but her heart won't stop pounding. The joy is bubbling up, threatening to overflow, even as she tries to maintain her composure. I can't help but smile at her excitement. It's a beautiful thing to witness a soul realizing its own worth for the first time. I think about her future, how she will become the greatest researcher the East has ever seen. If I told her that now, her heart really might stop. I turn back to the business at hand. I explain that I want to talk more with Laureate, away from the prying eyes of society. I tell her plainly, I need her help with a business venture. Laureate looks like she's been struck by lightning. Her? Help me? The Count hesitates, his brow furrowing as he questions if his daughter could possibly be of use in such important matters. The gloom returns to Laureate's face as her father continues to doubt her. It's a cycle of neglect that has defined her entire existence. I look at Count Freya with a gaze that brooks no argument. He needs to understand that his daughter's value is not up for debate. I promise him that this is something only Laureate can do. I am staking my reputation on her genius, and I won't back down. I challenge him to take a leap of faith, to trust his daughter, just this once, and see what she is truly capable of. My husband watches the exchange silently, his presence a steady anchor behind me. He knows I am up to something, and he is choosing to let me lead. He steps in, suggesting that the Count leave Laureate with me so they can discuss investments in private. It's the perfect opening. His eyes meet mine, filled with a quiet support that surprises me. He tells me not to worry and to go ahead with my plans. Is he really helping me? This man, who usually keeps his distance, is actively clearing the path for my ambitions. I nod, standing up with a newfound confidence. The Count has no choice but to agree, leaving Laureate in my care. I reach out a hand to Laureate, my voice soft and inviting. I want her to feel safe, to know that in this room, she is the most important person. I suggest we go somewhere more comfortable, somewhere we can speak freely about the things she loves. She agrees instantly, her hand trembling slightly as it meets mine. We walk together, leaving the men and their politics behind. The door clicks shut, and we enter a sun-drenched room filled with the vibrant colors and scents of rare flowers. I thank her for bringing her plants, asking if she cultivated them all herself. I want her to know that I see her effort in every leaf and petal. Lariette's face lights up with a radiant smile. She's in her element now, surrounded by the only things that have never judged her. She begins to babble, her shyness replaced by a torrent of knowledge. She talks about bug-catching plants and flowers that only bloom in the cold, her passion finally finding an audience. But then she stops. A sudden wave of hesitation washes over her, the old insecurities clawing their way back to the surface. She asks if her hobby is too silly, too useless. Her shoulders droop, and the light in her eyes begins to fade. She tells me that everyone says she's too weak and cowardly, that she only hides with her plants because she can't handle people. She looks out the window, her silhouette lonely against the glass. This is the heart of her wound, the belief that her greatest strength is actually her biggest flaw. I watch her, realizing why it took so long for her to succeed in my past life. She was never given the chance to believe in herself. She never received recognition for the things she loved. She was taught to hide her light, and now she's afraid to turn it on. I reach out and take her hands in mine, a gentle squeeze to ground her in the present. I won't let her retreat into the dark again. I tell her firmly that what she has been doing is not useless at all. In fact, it is the most important work in the empire. She looks at me with tears brimming in her eyes, desperately wanting to believe me, but still too afraid to hope. I offer her a warm, knowing smile. I am not just a noblewoman giving a compliment. I am a witness to the greatness she has yet to achieve. Of course it's not useless, I tell her. Her tears begin to fall, but they are tears of relief, not sorrow. I explain that these plants she loves so much are going to do something incredible. They are going to be the foundation of our success. They are going to save the East. I say it with such conviction that even Lariat can't help but feel the weight of the promise. Back in the drawing room, my husband taps his cane thoughtfully. He is a man of few words, but his mind is never still. The Count tries to apologize for the waste of time, but my husband silences him with a single sharp look. He knows better than anyone that I never waste a second. The Count stammers, caught between his desire to please the Duke and his own deep-seated lack of faith in his daughter. My husband looks down at the papers in his hand, his expression unreadable. He is beginning to see me in a new light, and the realization is clearly unsettling. I am not a decoration. I am not a trophy to be kept on a shelf. I am a player in this game, and I am playing for keeps. He reminds the Count that doubting one's partner is a sign of rudeness. It's a subtle defense of my autonomy that I didn't expect from him. I want to do my best in my role, but I am redefining what that role means. I am no longer content to just survive. I am here to conquer. He watches me, his gaze lingering. There is a new respect there, perhaps even a hint of something deeper, as he watches his wife take control of the future. He sees a woman who shines through her own determination. The quiet, neglected wife is gone, and in her place is someone who will change everything. The silence in the drawing room was heavy, but the air felt different today, charged with a purpose that had been missing for far too long. Amber wasn't just offering tea, she was offering a lifeline. To solve the famine of the East, she was ready to put her faith and her fortune into Lariat's hands. The famine wasn't just a lack of rain, it was a poison in the very soul of the land, causing every crop to wither and die before it could ever feed the hungry. Lariat stood up, her heart racing. She knew the soil better than anyone, but the solution Amber was hinting at seemed almost impossible. Her eyes drifted to the corner of the room, toward the one thing that managed to survive in the shadows. She realized with a start that Amber was talking about the Rodin plant, a species most people wouldn't even touch. But the rhodin plant carried a dark reputation that was hard to ignore. Known as the devil's flower, it was a symbol of the East's devastation, a wicked-looking bloom that appeared only when the land was at its worst. People hated it, yet they forgot the most important detail. It was the only thing that could actually grow in the poisoned earth. Amber's suggestion was radical. If the rhodin plant could survive the poison, why not take that strength and give it to the crops people actually needed to eat? The realization hit Lariat like a physical shock. Amber wasn't just talking about gardening, she was talking about crossbreeding, a new future for their people. The potential was staggering. Lariat began to mumble to herself, her scientific mind already calculating mutations and lifespans, seeing a path through the darkness for the first time. Amber watched her, a quiet confidence in her eyes. She knew that with Lariat's genius and the right resources, success wasn't just a dream, it was inevitable. But as the weight of the task settled in, Lariat hesitated, her old insecurities bubbling to the surface. She looked at Amber with pure wonder. How could the Duchess have such vision? To Lariat, Amber seemed like a miracle worker. Amber brushed it off with a modest smile, but she could see the girl's self-doubt starting to take hold again. She reminded Lariat that her perspective as an outsider was a gift, but Lariat's own discovery was just around the corner. Lariat shook her head, blushing. She had spent so long being told she was ordinary and sad that she couldn't imagine herself as a savior. Amber reached out, her touch gentle but firm. She wasn't going to let Lariat retreat into the shadows of her own mind. She spoke with a conviction that brooked no argument. Lariat had to stop belittling herself if she was going to lead the East out of its misery. The belief in Amber's eyes was the most powerful thing Lariat had ever encountered. It was a demand for Lariat to finally start trusting in her own worth. Lariat swallowed hard, her pulse thrumming in her ears. She squeezed her gloved hands together, feeling a shift deep within her soul. For the first time, she felt seen, truly seen. She accepted the challenge with a newfound sense of duty. The flowers blooming around her in the greenhouse seemed to mirror the hope finally taking root in her heart. She would try. She would believe. As evening fell, the carriage clattered away from the estate, the setting sun painting the sky in bruises of purple and gold. Lariat couldn't stop smiling. The joy was radiant, transforming her face into something vibrant and alive. She had spent her life being told she was a waste of time, just another daughter to be married off. But now, her passion finally had value. She noticed her father watching her, his expression unreadable against the fading light outside the window. He questioned the sudden support from the House of Telesto, his voice laced with the caution of a man who had seen too many political traps. He worried that this meeting might lead to regret, fearing his daughter was being used as a pawn in a larger game. In his mind, the Duchess was a formidable woman, and he doubted she would truly protect someone as vulnerable as Lariat from the harsh realities of society. Lariat's defense was immediate and fierce. She wouldn't allow anyone, not even her father, to speak poorly of the woman who had finally given her a reason to hope. Her father was startled. He hadn't seen this kind of fire in her before. He realized then that Amber hadn't just invested in a project. She had sparked a fundamental change in his daughter's spirit. He also couldn't ignore the way the Duke looked at his wife now, with a burgeoning respect that was impossible to miss. The Count leaned back, admitting he might have been too hasty. Amber was clearly a force to be reckoned with, a woman who changed everyone she touched. Lariat's smile returned, brighter than ever. She was ready for whatever came next. As the carriage disappeared into the distance, the silhouette of the castle stood tall against the dying light, a silent witness to the shift in power. Back inside, the quiet clink of a teacup marked a moment of hard-won peace. Amber sat with Carlix, the silence between them no longer filled with the same tension as before. She allowed herself to hope for a smoother future. She caught him glancing at her, a silent acknowledgement of the work she had done today. Carlix finally spoke, his voice low as he noted her success in convincing the Count. He was watching her more closely than he cared to admit. His praise was simple, but it carried the weight of a mountain. "You did good." Amber turned to him, a genuine, warm smile spreading across her face. The gratitude she felt was written in the sparkle of her eyes. In that moment, the Duke felt something he hadn't prepared for, a sudden, violent thud in his chest that stole his breath. Amber was radiant, her joy infectious. She asked him if he was glad too, her voice soft and intimate. The reaction was physical. Carlix turned his head away sharply, unable to handle the intensity of the emotions stirring within him. Amber was confused. She had expected a shared moment of triumph, not this sudden, cold withdrawal. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird, a frantic rhythm that he couldn't quiet. He clenched his fist, his knuckles white as he fought for control over his own body. Amber's face fell, the light fading from her eyes. She felt the old distance between them stretching out again, cold and vast. Carlax managed only a single, strained word of agreement, his gaze fixed on anything but her. Feeling the rejection, Amber stood up. If there was nothing left to say, she wasn't going to stay and beg for his attention. He stood up too, but the words were stuck in his throat, a tangled mess of confusion and burgeoning desire. The door closed behind her with a finality that echoed through the silent room. Amber stood in the hallway, the silence pressing in on her from all sides. She told herself she didn't care. She had long since given up on finding an emotional connection with a man like Carlax. But as she stood there, she realized with a pang of frustration that she was actually upset. She wanted more than just a business partner. She clenched her dress, the fabric bunching under her fingers as she tried to suppress the hurt. A weary sigh escaped her. She hated feeling this way, vulnerable and confused by a man who seemed to blow hot and cold with every breath. Inside the room, Carlax collapsed back onto the sofa, his head in his hands. The thumping in his chest wouldn't stop. It was a physical ache now, a reminder that his walls were crumbling. He couldn't get her smile out of his head. It was haunting him, challenging his resolve to remain detached and cold. Her face was burned into his mind, vibrant and warm, a stark contrast to the icy world he had built for himself. He covered his face, a blush deepening on his cheeks. He felt weird, out of control, and utterly terrified of the feelings he could no longer ignore. A knock at the door always signals a change in the wind, but today it feels like the start of a storm. Grace, the head maid, stands there with a coldness that matches the stone walls of this castle. She doesn't even offer the basic courtesy of my title. Her eyes are sharp, calculating, as if she's waiting for me to crumble under the weight of her presence. She tells me the Duchess seeks my presence. It's not a request, it's a summons. Bella is finally ready to move her pieces across the board. I notice the slight immediately. She calls me Lady Amber, deliberately stripping away my status as the mistress of this house. They think they can still treat me like a guest who has overstayed her welcome. I decide to play her game. If she wants to be informal, I can return the favor. I refer to the Duchess simply as Lady Bella, and the reaction is instantaneous. Grace is horrified, stammering about my supposed rudeness. It's funny how they only care about etiquette when it's being used against them. I offer a shallow apology, one that doesn't reach my eyes. I'm done being the quiet mouse they can step on whenever they please. With a smile that masks my growing disdain, I ask where I should go. The stage is set, and I'm ready to see what Bella has planned for me. The doors to the vine room are grand, ornate, and usually locked to me. This was always her private sanctuary, a place where I was never invited. The heavy clunk of the lock echoes through the hallway. It feels less like an entrance and more like a trap being set. She's so obvious in her attempts to assert dominance. Every movement, every word is designed to remind me of my place, or rather, where she thinks my place should be. I walk in to find a sea of faces, women who have spent their lives perfecting the art of the subtle insult. The room is filled with the sickly sweet scent of tea and the sound of forced laughter. I see the look in Bella's eyes. This isn't a social gathering, it's a public execution of my dignity. She glances at her companions, sharing a silent joke at my expense. They view me as a curiosity, a temporary fixture in a house they believe they own. Her goal is simple: to intimidate me, to make me feel small in front of the very people I am meant to lead. In the past, this would have worked. I would have stood in the corner, invisible and aching, while they treated me like a ghost haunting my own home. I remember the coldness of being ignored, the way their laughter felt like a physical weight on my chest. I remember how my hands used to tremble, hidden in the folds of my dress, as I struggled to find a voice that no one wanted to hear. The shame was a constant companion back then, a shadow that followed me through every gilded hallway. But things are different now. That version of me died with my first life. I am no longer afraid of Bella or the petty games she plays. I walk into the center of the room, my head held high. I can feel her glare burning into the side of my face, but I don't give her the satisfaction of looking away. I take my time, moving with a grace they didn't think I possessed. The silence in the room is deafening as they watch me approach. Bella's smile is tight, her eyes narrowed. She's realizing that the girl she used to bully is gone, replaced by someone she doesn't recognize. I sit down without waiting for an invitation. The collective gasp from the other women is music to my ears. She snaps at me immediately, asking if she gave me permission to sit. I simply tell her that since she was so busy chatting, I didn't want to be rude and interrupt. She tries to lecture me on the customs of the East as if I'm an uneducated child who doesn't know how to behave in polite society. She calls me rude, her voice dripping with venom. It's a desperate attempt to regain control of a conversation that is already slipping through her fingers. I offer another empty smile. I'll play the role of the dutiful daughter-in-law for now, but only because it makes the coming sting even sharper. Then, I dropped the first real bomb. I ask her a simple question about the key to this room. I remind her that as the Duchess, the Vine Room is technically under my care. Her snicker is ugly, a sharp contrast to the elegant surroundings. She reaches for something around her neck, her fingers trembling slightly with a mix of anger and triumph. She produces a key, claiming it was given to her by the former Duke himself. It's her ultimate trump card, a sign that she still has the backing of the family patriarch. She's talking about Detlef, Carlix's father. He always favored her, and she uses his name like a shield against any challenge to her authority. She slams the key onto the table, the thud echoing her arrogance. She thinks this settled the matter, that I'll back down now that she's invoked his name. She leans in, her voice dropping to a low, threatening hiss. She wants me to know that my position here is fragile, that I am only here at her mercy. She tells me that while I may have won over Carlix, I will never win over his father. To her, power is a zero-sum game, and she's determined to make sure I lose. She taps her fan against the table, a rhythmic, annoying sound that betrays her agitation. She declares that no matter how I act, she is the true mistress of this castle. It's a pathetic boast, the cry of someone who knows her influence is fading. She dismisses me like a servant, telling me to go back to my room and be a good girl. The condescension is suffocating. I don't move. I let the silence stretch out, watching the frustration boil behind her eyes. I ask her why I should obey. The smack of her fan closing is the only sound in the room. She's stunned that I would dare to question her. I stand up, my voice calm and steady. I remind her that I have rights as the wife of the Duke, and I have no intention of surrendering them to her. I look her dead in the eye and tell her that if she's the one who is so lonely, she can be the one to stay in this room. The insult lands perfectly. She's shaking now, her face contorted with rage. She's never been spoken to this way, especially not by me. She reaches for a bell, her fingers fumbling. The mask of the elegant Duchess has completely shattered. She checks with Grace to make sure the doors are shut and that Carlix is far away on the training grounds. She's done with words. She's looking for a more violent form of control. She snaps her fingers, and the atmosphere in the room shifts from tense to dangerous. A group of masked maids appears carrying a heavy wooden box. This isn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was prepared. She steps toward me, her eyes wild. She thinks she can break me with fear, that she can beat me back into submission. She calls me foolish, her voice trembling with the thrill of impending violence. She's finally showing her true colors. The lid of the box is opened with a chilling clack. I see the tools of her discipline inside. I hesitate for a second, not out of fear, but out of shock that she would actually go this far within the castle walls. She reaches into the box, her smile returning as she grabs a whip. She tells me that naughty girls need to be punished. I can see the malice in her gaze. She doesn't just want to hurt me, she wants to destroy my spirit. The maids grab my arms, pinning me in place. Grace watches with a look of grim satisfaction. They think they've won. I stare directly at her, my voice low and cold. I tell her that she will regret this. It's not a plea, it's a promise. She ignores me, stretching the whip between her hands. She justifies it as discipline, a necessary act to maintain her power. She raises her arm, the whip whistling through the air. I close my eyes, bracing for the impact, refusing to give her the satisfaction of a scream. But the blow never lands. She hesitates, her arm frozen in midair. She glares toward the entrance, her face pale. Someone has interrupted her moment of triumph. The maids look just as confused and terrified as their mistress. The power dynamic in the room has shifted once again. A heavy knock sounds at the door, echoing like a heartbeat. The doors to my prison are about to be forced open.